Given the burgeoning success of flying hamster research and our fascination with the little rodents, you and I decide we need to do our senior thesis in Adrian's lab. Now, a lot of the other members of Adrian's lab are focused on studying the genetics and molecular biological function of specific genes and proteins in the hamsters. I think it would be interesting to study the genetics of an entire hamster population rather than just studying a single gene. The study of the genetic variation within a population is called population genetics. Now, since we seem to be working together so well, let's go ahead and collaborate on our population genetics projects. Okay, well, let's think about the mechanism of evolution before we get started. And that sort of begs the question, what is evolution? Well, for now, let's think about evolution as a change in a characteristic within a population over time. Now, as we learn more about population genetics, we'll be able to refine this definition a little bit more. While having lunch with some other student researchers in our building, we learn about their theory regarding the evolution of traits. They tell us they believe the evolution of new anatomical structures is driven by necessity. Similarly, if an organism doesn't need a structure, that structure will become smaller and less developed because of disuse. The idea that characteristics acquired by an organism during its lifetime can be passed on to its offspring is attributed to the scientist Jean-Baptiste Lamarck. This theory is referred to as heritability of acquired characteristics, or also known as Lamarckian inheritance. Under this theory, a giraffe that stretches its neck to reach leaves and higher branches of trees would pass on stronger neck muscles to its offspring, which would enable longer reach and eventually would result in the evolution of giraffes with longer necks. Similarly, the theory proposes that the disuse of the small toe in the feet of some mammals, such as pigs, caused it to shrink over time. We might say that the theory of acquired characteristics is akin to the adage that necessity is the mother of invention. The need for a trait drives the evolution of that trait. Now, our classmates' theory seems pretty logical, but it's always a good idea to consider alternative possibilities. From our previous studies, we know that variation exists in a population of organisms. Mutations can introduce new alleles, which may or may not provide improved functionality over the previously existing ones. Random assortment and crossing over create new combinations of alleles of different genes. And for a given situation, new genetic combinations could theoretically provide a competitive advantage to that individual. Let's consider an example. Suppose there is variation in the size and strength of flying hamster wings in an island population. Hamsters with stronger, larger wings can fly farther than the ones with smaller wings. However, since food and mates are plentiful on the island, that's not really that important. Now, suppose the volcano in the middle of the island suddenly erupts, and the flying hamster habitat is completely destroyed. The hamsters with larger wings are strong enough to fly to a new island, while the weaker ones are stuck on the ruined island or simply can't make it all the way to a new piece of land. In the end, the significant alteration to the environment selected for a new population of hamsters with large, stronger wings. These are the basic principles of the theory of evolution that was proposed by Charles Darwin. He reasoned that populations, rather than individuals, evolve. This evolution is possible because genetic variation exists within a population. Individuals with different genotypes in the population survive and reproduce at different rates. The agent which determines a differential rate of reproduction is called natural selection. Note the difference between Darwin's and Lamarck's theories. Lamarck believed that the need for a new trait would promote the evolution of that trait, whereas Darwin proposed that evolution occurred through the selective pressure for a pre-existing trait in a population. Both theories seem kind of reasonable. How can we determine which theory most accurately describes what's actually happening in nature? What if we tie the wings of some flying hamsters so they can't fly? The theory of acquired characteristics predicts that since the wings aren't being used, they will progressively become smaller and possibly even disappear over several generations. As it turns out, a scientist named August Weismann conducted a similar experiment to disprove Lamarck's theory. Weismann repeatedly cut off the tails of mice over several generations. He found that the tails of mice in subsequent generations neither disappeared nor grew appreciably shorter. Today, Darwin's theory of evolution is widely accepted as the principle which governs population genetics. As we begin our study of flying hamster population genetics, we will see how the principles of Darwin's theory can be used to predict the allelic, genotypic, and phenotypic frequency within a population. In summary, the study of the genetic variation within a population is called population genetics. Evolution is a change in a characteristic within a population over time. The theory of acquired characteristics states that characteristics acquired by an organism during its lifetime can be passed on to its offspring. It is also sometimes called Lamarckism. The principles of Darwinian evolution include the ideas that populations rather than individuals evolve, evolution is possible because genetic variation exists within a population, and individuals with different genotypes in the population reproduce at different rates. Natural selection is the agent which determines a differential rate of reproduction.